this.
As President Trump, Chris Southworth is the Secretary General of the International Chambers of Commerce here in the UK. That is the world's largest commercial organisation. Thank you very much for coming in, Chris. I mean, some of those figures are eye-watering, aren't they, in terms of the potential for scope? Not least, more than 1,000 products on a Trump list, which we're waiting to see. But in terms of who's going to be hit, it's very wide-ranging, clearly.
Yeah, it's a real concern. It's a concern not just for the two largest economies and everyone in those economies, but also supply chains that reach far beyond those borders. And it will affect everybody, consumers, small companies.
Give us an example. I mean, how does that work?
Well, if you're, manufacturing cans or in the drinks and food industry, then, those cans are sold all over the world. They may be produced in the US or China, or they may be sort of still shipped out and then produced in another country. But, whatever happens within those two economies will impact other economies. That's the nature of the global.
Right, the trouble here is, of course, President Trump is saying, this is theft of our intellectual property and we have to resolve that. He doesn't seem to have any confidence that it's going to be done any other way than taking China on head-on like this. Yeah,
there are genuine concerns around IP and the use of IP. That's fair. That's a fair challenge. And there's the same on steel dumping as well. There is oversupply of steel, and that's a genuine concern too. But the way to deal with it is through the multilateral institutions like the World Trade Organization. It's there for that purpose. We've got to use it for that purpose, and we've got to support the institution to try and find the right solution at a global scale, not between two of the largest economies.
Mr. Trump would say, and we can go along with him to a certain extent, that's not worked. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to rattle a few cages, I'm going to get everybody around the negotiating table, say in 2 or 3 months' time, and we're going to get a result.
Well, if you want to rattle cages, then I'm not sure this is the best way to do it. I mean, all it does is it grinds discussions to a halt in the World Trade Organization and elsewhere for that matter, because it just adds political instability, political uncertainty, and of course that's a huge concern for all sorts of businesses around the world. We've got to make that system work. I mean, the US is the biggest user of the dispute resolution system within the WTO, so it's not entirely true that the World Trade Organization doesn't deliver services and use to the US.
No, but and there is Trump the businessman as president here operating as well. Push hard, see what you get back, give and take. I guess for you the concern is that if this does not have a satisfactory outcome, and let's be honest, the markets are pretty uncomfortable as well, that it's the spin-off really, isn't it? This is not just a China-US issue.
No, not at all. And once you push that button, where does it end? Where's the end of that piece of string? And it could end in all sorts of directions. It's not under Trump's control in a way. Now he's imposed those tariffs. Then what China does next and what the rest of the world economy do next is really, really important. And it's not the moment for any of this within the global economy. It's fragile. There's a lot of uncertainty already, so this is not going to add any value at all. It's not the right way to do with it.
So just one last question. Where do you think that Beijing will hit US trade? What sort of products do you think it's going to try and affect? I mean, we're told that it will try and affect products which are to do with Trump's core support of the United States. What sort of things are we talking about there?
Well, we're talking about soybeans is the obvious kind of area where you've got agricultural producers in states where with strong voting support for Trump. That's probably China's a big importer of US soy. It's probably going to be something like that. The big products that everybody's aware of is Boeing and aeroplanes, but that's not necessarily first starting point.
No, and I think what we've heard so far, and you say about nuts and fruit and wine, that's all really related to the steel and aluminium. We wait for the second round, so it's all slightly out of sync.
So this is a gathering storm rather than a storm.
It would seem that way. Chris, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you. Let's have a look at some of the other stories which are making the news.